Welcome to our show. You're listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections, a place to learn about and celebrate creative arts therapy. Each week, we'll explore new ways that music, art, and dance can reach, connect with, and help individuals of all stages of health and wellness. Hi, I'm Bree, a board-certified music therapist and the managing partner for the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute. Tune in as I interview professionals from healthcare and educational backgrounds on the impact of the creative arts. If you prefer to watch our live video stream, simply visit www.pbmti.com. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You are listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I'm your host, Bree Gordon, a board-certified music therapist here locally in South Florida with the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute. If you are joining us for the first time, thank you so much for finding us. What you can expect from the next hour each week, we get an hour, full hour. It just blows my mind every time to talk about creativity and the importance of creativity when it comes to specifically education and healthcare. And I get to explore all these different ways, whether it's in our local community or a national level, on a global level, all these different ways that individuals are going outside the box to reach people, to connect with people, to help them communicate, to help comfort them. And of course, this week is no exception. And if you are a regular listener and viewer, thank you so much. I just learned a few minutes ago for this show that the numbers are just growing so much. We've seen a huge spike in Facebook Live viewers. So if you're joining us that way, thank you so much for stopping by the page to do that. I can't tell you what it means to me as a creative arts therapist to, one, have this opportunity going on almost a year and a half now of this show, and that there's such a warm response. It lets me know that our community really wants to learn more, just like I'm excited to learn more about all these amazing disciplines that are happening, and not only on a professional level, but people who are just sharing their passion out of the goodness of their heart, whether it's through music or art or drama or dance or whatever that is, whatever is your personal talent, skill, that there's a lot of us out there in our community that are looking for ways to affect positive change through creativity. So I just wanted to start by thanking that, hey, we're first show of a new year, our first show of 2017. I certainly wouldn't be in this seat behind this microphone if it wasn't for everybody listening and watching and your support. So thank you. I'm very thankful for all of you. So last week, we closed out the year by looking at resolutions and the ups and downs of resolutions and reframing that to goals. We talked about setting intentions and goals for the new year, achievable, attainable goals that are going to be positive for ourselves and for those around us. And I thought a great way to kick that off would be talking to educators, where a lot of our goal setting starts, where a lot of our empowering starts, is having a really powerful educator that reaches us in such positive ways. So we got to speak with a college professor and a high school principal, and they both shared creative ways that they have been evolving their teaching or leadership style throughout their careers to reach students. And what they found, and what was kind of a common theme throughout that entire show, was they were most successful when they met the students where they were at, rather than standing up in front of a room behind a podium, reading from slides or reading from the same textbook and hoping all the students were coming to them. They made the most impact and saw the most positive change when they met their students where they're at. And that could mean a myriad of things. In one particular example, it was realizing that in a certain location where there might be isolated from a city, opportunities to go on to post-secondary, that distance learning through technology was going to be a way to reach individuals who maybe couldn't get to go take college courses while still in high school. How could they bring that opportunity to these students and really see them succeed and really see them reach their education goals? So we're going to continue with that theme today, continue with this idea of thinking about the educators in our lives, and this is my charge for you today, those who are listening and watching from home. Think about throughout your life those professors or teachers or life coaches or music teachers or dance teachers, whatever it is, who really affected you in a positive way. And so the last kind of hour leading up to the show, I've been kind of asking everybody in the studio here or texting my friends just to get a kind of an idea of like, and they probably think I'm crazy. I'm like randomly texting people, who's your favorite teacher and why? Like, oh, hey, nice to talk to you too. And I just wanted to get a feel for what everyone's response was. And it was really cool that, again, it was this common theme of like, hey, when I was a little kid, I wasn't succeeding in school, I wasn't getting good grades, and it took this one teacher to realize it's because I wasn't relating to what was being taught in the classroom. What I needed was to go to the library and pick up a book and read it. Or what I needed was someone, my parents at home to respond to me a different way or to challenge me in a different way. And my teacher really recognized that and shared that with my parents. And it really became clear that everyone's answer was very similar. It took a teacher looking at you as an individual and really not just this blanket statement of this is how we're going to teach and everybody learns the same way. This is how I think I can reach you individually. And that takes time. That takes compassion. That takes an investment in that student. And I would have to say the same thing. I mean, I've obviously reflected upon the same question. If you've listened to this show for a while, you know that I've had my favorite professor and then mentor that I consider having had the biggest impact on my life from an educational standpoint, Dr. King from my alma mater, Nazareth College. I've had her on the show a few times because I just want to pick her brains. I'm like, I know I graduated 9 years ago, but if you could just keep telling me what's the best way to run my life, that would be great. Now, she's awesome and that's such a friend of the show. But I think back to, I had an opportunity to be in a few different educational settings, be in a home-based daycare, then be in a private Christian school for 10 years and go to public high school. And so I kind of got a perspective from a few different settings, which I'm so appreciative of. And I'll never forget, my 8th grade teacher, Miss DeVries, and going to a small, very, very small, we had the biggest graduating class ever with 14 kids, very small private school. Wasn't too hard to get to know everyone on an individual level, but what was so cool about her was that she was also a musician and she was also an actress. So we got to do some cool things together, like audition for shows, or she would promote me for a choir or teach me piano and different things like this while teaching my regular subjects. And I really don't know if I would have had the confidence to go into a much larger school, public school setting, and then on to, obviously, specifically a music school and college, if I hadn't had that belief instilled in me at such a young age. I mean, many of us are fortunate enough to have parents that believe in us and believe in our gift. We talk to a lot of people on this show who follow their passions, whatever that may be, and it does take a leap of faith. But sometimes you need that outside perspective, and you need those educators to believe that what you have to offer is special and it's unique. So, Ms. DeVries, thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate that. We are going to be talking to some women today who one is going to look familiar, hopefully, a friend of our show, Raquel Farrell-Kirk, who was here talking about art therapy before, and we chatted about some programs that we've worked on together, and she hinted at some upcoming exciting things going on in her life of launching this Evolve Learning community, which she did with her business partner, Christina Sullivan, who's a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm so thrilled to have both of these women back on the show today to talk about the school, what the past year has been like, just to explain honestly what homeschooling in general means. I think there's probably a lot of misconceptions about that, to clear some of those up, and also what the benefits are, the overall benefits, and then break it down to some really specific benefits, therapeutic and wellness centered. And I know one of our music therapists had an opportunity to go down there and do some programming and just has been bragging about ever since. And actually that's why I called you, Raquel. Sam's like, you got to get her back on. You got to hear about this school. It is so cool. I'm like, all right, I'm sold. I'm so excited. So really, really pleased to be able to introduce you to this new concept locally in our community in South Florida today. I thought that, I have to be on theme as a music therapist. We have to have a sing-along every show. I just thought, we're talking about education today. My charge to everyone is to think about that teacher, professor, instructor, life coach, whatever it means to you, that really had an impact on your life, that really reached you in a special way, whether you were 4 years old or you're 40 years old, whatever that means to you. It could be a mentor. And let us know. Reach out to us on social media. We're on Facebook Live right now at Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute page. We're on Twitter, PBMTI. You can always call into the show and let us know at 888-565-1470. We'd love to hear from you. So here's a little music, a little sing-along for you while you're thinking about that. Teach your children. You who are on the road must have a code that you can live by, and so become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye. Teach your children well. Their father's hell did slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams, the one they picked, the ones you'll know by. Don't you ever ask them why. If they told you, you would cry. So just look at them and sigh, and know they love you. Don't you ever ask them why. If they told you, you would cry. So just look at them and sigh, and know they love you. Stick around. We got a quick commercial break. We come back. We're going to be talking to Raquel and Christina of Evolve Learning Community. I'm so excited to share this with you. Be right back.
Mom's fall was a wake-up call. We knew she needed help, but we also knew she'd never leave her home.
With jobs and kids, we can't always be there. We weren't sure who to trust to help around the house and make sure she takes her medications.
We did our research and found our answer. Bright Star Care. Their home care teams are led by registered nurses, with help available 24/7.
Thanks to Bright Star Care, Mom can stay where she wants to be, at home.
For a standard of care that raises the bar, call 844 for Bright Star.
The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com. Engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944. You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You are listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I'm your host, Bree Gordon. So glad that you've either maybe found us for the first time or tuning in week after week. I just want to express how much I appreciate everybody's support so that we can reach as many people as possible with these awesome creative things that are going on every day in our community, reaching people through healthcare and through education, which is our continued topic today. Specifically, educational opportunities happening here locally in South Florida, which I love. I've got with us the owners of Evolve Learning Community, Raquel Farrell-Kirk, who is a art therapist. We got a chance to chat about that earlier, and Christina Sullivan, a licensed clinical social worker. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So I just want, and again, Raquel, again, thanks for coming back.
Of course.
But it's been a while since you were here.
It has been a while. I'm not even sure. I was trying to recall if Evolve was really up and running last time we spoke.
It was like a little thing we kind of mentioned, this
Right.
dream that was coming together. We had chatted about your art therapy business and also some of the cool nature
Yes.
stuff you've got going on. But it has been a while. We're on a new channel since then. We're on a new live video streaming since then. So if you wouldn't mind just starting by introducing yourself.
Sure. As Bree mentioned, my name's Raquel. I've been an art therapist for, a long time now. I haven't adjusted the script in my head. In my head, I just got out of grad school, but it's been more like 14 years, I think.
How does that happen?
I know. But I've worked in a variety of settings, inpatient, psychiatric settings, outpatient, substance abuse, and with the Dade County Public School System. Another nice resource down here. We have the only, that I know of, in-house art therapy department for special education students. And that's probably kind of what got me started, led me down the path that I'm on today with Evolve.
And Dr. Levick, who we've had on the show,
Yes.
is very involved with that, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. She was very involved in the inception of that program, and it's been going strong for quite a long time now and still
So
there.
cool. That's wonderful. And Christine, we get to meet you for the first time. I'm going to have you pull your mic down so make sure everybody hears every wonderful thing you have to share. Would you mind starting just with your background?
Sure. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. Like Raquel, I've worked in community mental health settings, the school system. I worked for Dade Schools as well. And I work in private practice. My expertise is in the area of autism or related disabilities, ADD, ADHD, and learning disorders. That tends to be my favorite thing right now. My passion is with those kids.
Is there a personal connection?
Yes, my son has autism, and he was diagnosed at the age of 30 months, and that sort of helped propel me down this path.
Sure. We had a couple on a few weeks ago who have twin boys, 5 years old. Each of them have a diagnosis on the spectrum, and they've recently opened a sensory gym and a clinic. And we're actually fortunate enough to be able to lead music therapy sessions there. But again, I believe she was a OT and he's a police officer, and just out of their own personal journey of looking for resources were led to open this business. So it's interesting. We hear that a lot, or I get to hear that a lot in this program. And for me, it seems that what heart-driven work then that becomes, especially when there's such a personal reason behind it. So thank you for sharing that. Sure. What brought the two of you together?
Our children, really. We met on a homeschool field trip, and our kids hit it off instantly. And I went over and introduced myself to Christina, and believe it or not, within about 5 minutes, we were talking about the fact that we both had recently been having conversations about opening a learning center.
Wow.
And we spent the entire field trip talking in the back of the room until the lady kindly reminded us that we could always move outside.
Oh, that's a nice way to say that.
Yeah. And
Looks like you're having a great conversation, ladies.
absolutely. And it sounds crazy to say, but we literally met, hung out on the field trip for a couple of hours, went to lunch together, and at the end of lunch, she was like, "So do you want to go look at some properties?" I was like, "Sure."
Oh my God.
It was really fast.
Oh, wow.
It was really fast.
It was really fast, yeah. And I spent the entire drive home thinking of names for our business, and it really
It felt right.
So you
Yeah.
had both come to that meeting by chance and
Yes.
by fate, or however you want to say it, with having that in the back of your heads that was just an independent thought. You hadn't. Wow, that's pretty cool.
And our vision started out slightly different. I obviously have a kid with special needs, so my driver was, what can I find that is going to suit him and other kids with special needs? Her kids don't necessarily have special needs. She was looking to start a learning center that provided, access to classes and resources that the homeschool community as a whole needs. So our visions were able to be melted together to find what works for both of us. And we're constantly reevaluating and realigning that vision to really make it come true.
Very cool. So I have a million questions about the program. I actually didn't realize that it was so inclusive, on both ends. So that's awesome. I can't wait to dive more into that. But just for anyone listening today who may not have any experience with it or been educated formally about what is homeschooling, what does that concept mean?
It's really as simple as it sounds. It means that the parent is taking charge of their child's education and responsible for their child's education. Some of the statutes and things differ from state to state, but it means that you're withdrawing your child from the public school system, you're not enrolling them in private school, and you're setting up a home education program. Okay. That's the legal kind of definition. What you do from there is really up to you, especially in the state of Florida. So for some people, it's kind of on a spectrum. For some people, they do what we call school at home. It's almost the same exact thing. It's just a structure. There's a time, and this is math, and then it's, time for geography and history, and you wake up at a certain time. And for other people, it's all the way over to, we don't have a textbook, I don't know what we're doing next week, and everything in between. Some people like to purchase curriculum and have someone really guide them through it. Some people are more comfortable following their child's interests and developing their own activities. And like Evolve and Christina and I and what we offer, the resources for homeschoolers have really been expanding. So you don't have to do it on your own anymore.
And if you don't mind me asking, with all the opportunities that are out there, and certainly there are different levels of educational opportunities, why was this the right choice for both of your families?
Do you want to take that?
So, traditional schools for kids with autism, I think that many years ago there was a push for inclusion. And I think that it was a great idea, but the teachers weren't prepared for it, trained for it. The world's not really trained for it. So we're taking these kids that have social challenges and executive functioning skills challenges, and then we're placing them in this group of kids that they're not able to even get through their sensory issues, their executive functioning challenges, or their social challenges to access academics.
They're blocked at that level.
Exactly. So we have found that by supporting those underlying skills and providing, essentially it's like prerequisite skills. It's the prerequisite skills to be social, prerequisite skills to be academic. If we can account for providing the supportive environment for those, then we can provide them with the education that they need. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think that answers kind of why you chose that, for your son and for your family. For me, I have 3 children, and I started my homeschooling journey with my 2 older boys. And it's just kind of where, as a parent, you make decisions, and things don't always go according to the script you had in your head before you were a parent, Before I was a parent, I thought we were going to be baking muffins and doing yoga together, and it was going to be this peaceful nirvana, and anybody out there who has children is laughing already at that because that's just not how it goes. And so my children started in a school setting at a Montessori program. And as we went through the program and my older son started struggling with the way they had the program structured, I just found myself thinking, wow, even this setting that's supposed to be so individualized still has a lot of boxes that they need kids to fit into and still struggles with what to do with the kid who doesn't fit in that box. And one thing led to another, and I started researching, what do I do with this child who's very bright and capable, but not thriving in this environment? Right. And everywhere that I looked and read, the answer was try homeschooling. So I did.
And what does that look like off to bite off, in the beginning? I mean, how do you even start with that? We get some phone calls at Evolve that are just that. Yeah. I'm thinking of homeschooling my child and I don't know what to do. What does that mean? Where do I start? It can be very overwhelming. And I just reassure people all the time that you can do it. It's like any other decision that you make in life. You do your research, you think about it, you have some doubt, but it's never as difficult, as we think it's going to be. And like I said before, my hat's off to people who did this decades ago. Now I think that it's really easy. Now I think of it almost like tailor-made education, because I can pick and choose and buy things and piece things together. I don't have to do it all out of my own ingenuity and all on my own. So it's a lot more manageable for people now. And that's one of the reasons that we wanted to have a place like Evolve to make it more accessible to other families.
And there are a lot of resources. And I think it's also a movement. I think there's a lot of people that are not happy with the way schools are going. There's too much testing. There's too many kids in a classroom. Teachers are burning out. I think that it is a movement that people are wanting this type of thing. And you guys mentioned having the opportunity to meet on a field trip. So I think if someone's not familiar with homeschooling, they're thinking,
how was that an
Is that a
opportunity?
thing?
Yeah. And, it's kind of cool. I remember being, when I was going to Christian school and there were kids in our band, that were children who were homeschooled that were in our program or on sports teams, things like that. So how do you get access to field trips and sports and music opportunities?
Well, for people who are listening, it dawns on me that we keep saying there are a lot of resources and not being more specific. So to help people who might be listening, wherever you live, there is probably a meetup group of homeschool families. There's probably multiple Facebook groups of homeschool families. And there are formal resources. For example, most museums, science and art museums in most cities have classes that they conduct during the day geared at the homeschool population. And there's more informal settings where, you connect on Facebook or meet up with other homeschool families, and you may start, for example, we have a weekly park day that one of the groups in Broward does.
Awesome.
People sometimes start co-ops and say, oh, you're a therapist. I would love my high schoolers to get a psychology class, and I am a writer, so how about we get a co-op going, and they do psychology with you and English with me.
That's Catherine, who
Yes.
connected us, my business partner, that she's involved with that and provides the music instruction
Right.
for her children's co-op. And that was the first I'd ever heard of that opportunity, which is so cool. And I love how you're just sharing within, I know we keep saying the word resources, but it is so valuable, and you're literally within your family, the families that are obviously so engaged and so involved in their children's growth and development. So that's so cool. I know we have so much to unpack about specifically Evolve, but so good to hear a little bit of background about homeschooling in general. And if someone is listening or watching tonight who is maybe thinking about this, has been thinking about it, or sparked something for the first time, your advice would be to just do a little internet research about, meetups and Facebook groups, things like that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Google is our standby, and it holds true for homeschooling information as well. And homeschoolers are passionate. They'd be happy to share information with you.
Anything to avoid?
No, I don't think so. I think that there's a spectrum of resources out there. Some people want religious-based instruction and religious-based groups, and those are definitely available. Some people want to keep that separate or, are worried about beliefs and, whether or not that's going to fit for them. There's, at least here in South Florida, something for everyone.
Awesome. That is such a cool thing about the area we live in, right? I mean, it's so diverse, and I think it speaks to education, to all the different opportunities. So we're going to take a quick commercial break here for word from our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to learn more specifically about Evolve Learning Community here in Broward County in South Florida. Stick around. The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com. Engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944.
Mom's fall was a wake-up call. We knew she needed help, but we also knew she'd never leave her home.
With jobs and kids, we can't always be there. We weren't sure who to trust to help around the house and make sure she takes her medications.
We did our research and found our answer. Bright Star Care. Their home care teams are led by registered nurses, with help available 24/7.
Thanks to Bright Star Care, Mom can stay where she wants to be, at home.
For a standard of care that raises the bar, call 844 for Bright Star.
You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You are listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I'm your host, Bree Gordon. At the top of the show, we started talking about our theme for today, which is we're continuing on this idea of education as a tool to empower and reach students who we know there's no one size fits all. And we've learned that from the professors that we spoke with last week, and learning from Raquel and Christina this week, who are the founders and owners of Evolve Learning Community here in South Florida. Previously, before creating this learning community, dove into this world of homeschooling for their own families, made this personal choice. They've been sharing some of the benefits of that and some of the resources if you're interested. But along the way here, I want you to be thinking about the people in your lives, whether it's a teacher and maybe it's your parent, a mentor, a life coach that have really made lasting impacts on you along the way, no matter what age that was at, and what was so special about that person. So we always love to hear from our listeners and viewers on social media. You can check us out on Facebook at Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute, where we have our live video feed going right now, on Twitter at PBMTI, which I've been told we have Periscope going on there. I've yet to check that out, but I think that's a thing on there. Or you can call into the show, 888-565-1470. So I'm going to start by asking both of you that question, since we're asking it of our listeners and viewers. When you look back on your educational experience throughout your whole life, regardless of age, who is someone that stands out to you as having a lasting impact?
Wow. It's interesting. When you first were mentioning that question, some of the teachers that were coming to mind, I realized it's not necessarily because they were the nicest or the softest, but they were so passionate about what they were doing. Maybe at the time at 9, I might not have called it passionate, but now I realize they were just really passionate about what they were doing, and they were really invested in how their students did, and made me feel like they were invested in how I did. I remember one of my teachers who, wouldn't let me go to recess, and was like, "You are not reaching your potential, like you can do more." And that wasn't like a nice, kind, warm, fuzzy thing, but it got me the message that I mattered and she was paying attention.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I expect more of you because I know you can do more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And once I took advantage of the opportunity to finish things during that time, absolutely, I could have recess and all those other things. It was the message of, I see you and I'm going to push you because I know what you can do.
That's awesome. And Christina?
When you mentioned it, I initially couldn't think of anybody. But then as you were talking, it occurred to me that I had an English teacher in 7th grade that noticed that my reading level was a little different than the other kids. Not different, like better or worse, or reading disability or anything, but my interests were different. And so she gave me a special list of books to read and even brought in some of her own copies. So I thought that was cool because, like you said, she was passionate about what she was teaching.
Yeah.
So it wasn't about the content that the school was deeming this is what's appropriate for what you read, but it was, what does this kid need? And what is this kid going to benefit from that's going to expand their reading knowledge?
That's awesome. I love that. And again, didn't come to my mind in the beginning, but as we're talking about it, I remember the teacher that I mentioned in 8th grade. At graduation, she gave us pieces of paper and it had some job titles on it that were like, this is what I see you doing, in the future. And I don't even remember, honestly. I'm sure I did open it, but I was so excited, and it's your graduation. I thought, oh, okay, that's cool, and I put it in a drawer. And I remember being in college, and life changes happening, and kind of cleaning out a house and downsizing and all this. And I found that piece of paper, and on the top of it says music therapist.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I probably don't remember because I probably had no idea what that was at the time. I thought, she made that up. She's so creative. And here I am feeling so fortunate to have found this college program. So cool. I mean, I really do think it takes a special person to see that, in you and to see that potential, like you said. So very thankful for that. And thank you for sharing your people in your life that have helped you along the way, as I know you're passionate about doing for your students. So if you wouldn't mind, we've talked a little bit about homeschooling. You shared how people will call into the school and ask about getting homeschooling started. So what is the concept of Evolve? I mean, is it several homeschooled children that are receiving instruction at home but then come to the center? Tell me a little bit about the whole schools in general.
Sure, absolutely. Our intention really is to build a community. So the vast majority of our students are with us full time.
Okay.
So they're registered as homeschoolers, but their parents know that we can be the resource that helps design and implement what their kids are going to learn.
Okay.
So they are with us Monday to Friday, kind of like a typical school day, and they all have individualized learning plans. So we don't have necessarily everybody doing, math class at 9:30. We don't have everybody necessarily doing the same things at the same time. They start their day together as a community with a morning meeting, which is an opportunity for us to hit some of the social skills that Christina mentioned, some of the therapeutic component that they need. And that's also where we work with them on their planning and other skills. And they have a lot to say. They plan their day each morning, just like you and I do. They have a schedule so that there's some structure provided, and we guide them through that process of what are you going to fill in your day. And then they're able to divide their academic time between individual learning and group projects and certain things that are constants in our schedule. For example, Christina is a certified, am I saying the right word? Certified yoga instructor.
Okay, awesome.
And so we have, standing yoga classes twice a week that they know are happening. We have a meditation period. Obviously with, a yoga teacher and a social worker and art therapist there's art happening. And a lot of processing the afternoon and morning meetings. So that's what their day looks like. They get a balance of, and that's the wellness piece, they get a balance of life skills, social skills, planning, and academics that can be tailored to them.
Are there any other instructors other than the two of you present in the school?
We have 3 part-timers.
Okay.
That are
Learning coaches?
Yeah, they're learning coaches, and they're very instrumental in helping facilitate some of our math group, for example, an art group. So they're very helpful in taking small groups of kids and then facilitating something that's either academic or social for them.
And we do have what we term enrichment classes. And that's the opportunity for the homeschoolers who maybe just need a day or two a week to come and be part of our program. So we have every semester, every season, kind of a new slate of classes. They usually run for about 8 weeks that students can sign up for just one class or just a day. And we've had, some of the most interesting topics. We actually had a professional magician who taught like an 8-week magic class.
Oh my gosh.
Which, initially sounds like just fun. But when we saw him in action, we thought we have to have this class because these kids are learning public speaking.
Right.
They're learning how to make eye contact when they talk.
They're learning to multitask.
And they're getting a tool for initiating social interaction. How cool for a kid who struggles with social skills to literally now have a trick up their sleeve.
Speaking of a trick up your sleeve, over Thanksgiving break, my son took that magic class and he did 2 magic tricks for the whole family. So it really was a good avenue for him to feel part of the group.
What was that experience like for him?
Loved it.
Yeah.
He's getting all the attention and he knows what he's doing. And he's being successful and competent at it.
Cool. And for your family to see that and to see that confidence.
Awesome for them.
Yeah, I bet. All ages? Is there a specific age range? Is everybody?
We take ages 8 and up because we do need the kids to have a certain level of ability to work somewhat independently. Obviously, we're there and we hover and we check in on them. But one of the things we're building is their ability to work independently. Right now, a large part of our population is middle school age. So it's nice that they're kind of around the same age. And that's a really important time. I remember when I worked in the school system, I worked at a middle school for a while, and our principal, told us this is when we lose them. A lot of kids don't successfully make that transition from elementary to high school. This is kind of where they choose their path. And if they're going to fall off or struggle, this is when it's going to happen.
Those are crucial years. And so you mentioned that some of the different part-time professors that come in, enrichment courses that are offered. I imagine when parents make this choice, it's because they have a personal interest in teaching and being involved with that. Do you ever have opportunities for the parents of these children to come in and share almost like that co-op idea that we were talking about?
It's certainly an opportunity. What we have found, I think, is that for a lot of our parents who are bringing us students who have special needs, this is a lifesaver. And I'm going to explain why I use that word. I'm not being arrogant. We literally had a parent who said, I don't want to be dramatic, but I think you saved my life. Like, I don't know what was next for my son, what was going to happen. And so for a lot of our parents, we try really hard to be the resource for them as opposed to them being a resource for us. We try really hard to say, you knew there was a different way you wanted to approach education and you weren't sure how to do it or if you could do it alone. We're here for you to do that. We do have Career Day where we've had people that we know in the community. For example, Sam came in to do music therapy. And so we definitely have some parents in our community that we hope will come in that way and showcase some of their talents. And we did have them come in recently. We had an open house where the kids all got to show off, something that they did for their families. So there's a lot of opportunity for involvement that way.
And one of our parents facilitated a garden.
Oh,
So we
yes.
do have the garden.
That's awesome.
And
Yes.
that family comes and makes sure the garden is watered. They came over break
Yeah,
to water.
and it's really nice. So the kids have an organic garden in the back. We did a whole, we did a field trip to an urban farm. We had a nutritionist come in and do a workshop with them, and now they have their garden going. So we try to, again, that's a wellness piece.
Yeah, that's a real life skill.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's excellent. So I wanted to ask you specifically, Christina, what do you find are the benefits of a program like this that are unique to the needs of a child that has exceptional or special needs?
Oh, there's several. Like I said before about traditional schools or even just a larger school setting, the classrooms are so large that many of our kids struggle with some of those prerequisite skills that impede their ability to make progress academically. So, for example, kids who can't maintain attention on a professor or a teacher, then they're getting lost. They're missing the lecture. They're not able to follow. So what we try to do is help the kids with learning those prerequisite skills in a smaller environment so that then if they're being taught throughout the day in a natural setting, they're more likely to generalize to a larger setting. So in general, we get to focus more on what their individual needs are.
And if I could just jump in to tag on there, there's actually some really interesting writing and research out there about how learning in a classroom is a social event. And I think that when I first came across that, that was surprising to me because I think if you're neurotypical and you look at the world through that lens, there's unwritten rules or as they call it sometimes the unwritten curriculum that we don't think about.
Sure.
And it's very you have to pay attention to, oh, now I can raise my hand, now I can't, now it's okay to ask to borrow a pencil, now it's not. And those are things that we have the opportunity to break down and teach our students so they can go to the next level and actually access their education.
Yeah, can you imagine trying to listen to a lecture but still have to go through all those rules
Right.
that you can't figure out in a nanosecond?
Yeah, that's such an interesting way to perceive it too, because it's different than the norm, right? It's outside the box, which is what all of this is about. And as Raquel, I know, especially you and I have heard many times as we're talking to people about all these creative things that we love and we have to offer, the next question is, how is it funded? So we're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we get back, we're going to tackle that question. Also, find out if you have questions, if this has piqued an interest for you, you want to learn more, how you can reach these ladies and maybe find out more about the Evolve Learning community. Stick around.
Mom's fall was a wake-up call. We knew she needed help, but we also knew she'd never leave her home.
With jobs and kids, we can't always be there. We weren't sure who to trust to help around the house and make sure she takes her medications.
We did our research and found our answer, Bright Star Care. Their home care teams are led by registered nurses, with help available 24/7.
Thanks to Bright Star Care, Mom can stay where she wants to be, at home.
For a standard of care that raises the bar, call 844 for Bright Star.
The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com. Engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944. You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You are listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I'm your host, Bree Gordon, here with Raquel and Christina of the Evolve Learning Community. I am learning and I know Raquel, and we've talked about this many times, even in the beginning inception stages of it. And I'm learning so much about the idea of not just homeschooling in general, but that there are so many options beyond that. So if you're a parent thinking about this as an educational option for your child, you're not alone, basically, which is, I think, is so cool. And we're going to kind of talk about that at the end today of this bigger global movement of that. But before that, I want to make sure people have an opportunity to learn from you. If they are interested specifically in learning about your program, how can they get in touch with you?
So it's Evolve Learning Community. We have a website by the same name and a Facebook page by the same name. Okay. Like many people out there, that's often the easiest way to reach us. We're digital. We're on Facebook. That's where we post little announcements, pictures of what's happening, so they get a feel for it.
Pictures in action of the kids doing different things. I mean, like every day, they're doing different things. It's so cool to watch.
And of course, we have our phone number. It's 954-440-2483. And we're happy to field just questions about homeschooling in general. You know, we're homeschool moms. We are happy to talk to people in that role. And of course, also to give them information about our specific program if, they want to know if we could be of help to them.
And we're not the only program. So
Absolutely.
There's a couple other places in the community that are doing very similar things.
The wonderful thing about it is, I don't know who used it first, but the word movement, that this is part of a bigger movement. When Christina and I met and started exploring this idea, we went to visit another community called Yellowwood, which is in Fort Lauderdale, and they serve as high school students. It's kind of like a homeschool high school, very individualized learning and so on. But the whole community of people is so welcoming. You think of going into a business and you think of competition and not sharing. And this industry is the exact opposite. Everybody's cross-promoting. We've referred families to them. They've sent families to us. And we want our families to know there's a whole community of people doing this.
That's awesome. Similar to the way we've talked about our therapy practices.
Absolutely.
And if we can't find a need, we're excited. I mean, you lit up with excitement to share about that advice. Let me tell you about these other people doing cool things too, you know? How exciting that we're not alone doing it, and that there are options.
Absolutely, and it's how you, to use your phrase, how you meet the student where they're at. Maybe where your student and your family's at, you need something really particular that's better met somewhere else, and vice versa. Maybe they have a student there's something about our setting or our program that works better for them. And so when that's your main goal, it doesn't matter how it happens, just as long as that student gets, what they need.
That's awesome. Where are you guys located?
We're in Fort Lauderdale, 500 Southeast 18th Court in Fort Lauderdale, really close to the airport. That's the landmark I like to give people.
There you go. Very good. One more time, on Facebook, on Twitter?
Facebook, Evolve Learning Community. Our website is evolvelearningcommunity.com. And those are the two social media outlets that we're really the most active, where you can get the most up-to-date information.
Okay, very cool. So I did mention before the break, we get this question all the time. It's not public schooling, so there must be a cost incurred. Are there, what are the options for that? Are there scholarship options? What does that look like?
For the kids that have an autism diagnosis, they can apply for what's called the Gardner Scholarship.
Okay.
They can go to stepupforstudents.org and fill out the online application. They must have a diagnosis or an IEP to demonstrate their diagnosis, and then they qualify for about $10,000 on average for use for services.
Okay.
And we are providers for that scholarship, so we can accept funding from them.
That's awesome.
It's very helpful to
for
families.
kids. Is it a number or is it the word?
Stepupforkids.org.
Is it Step Up for Kids or Step Up for Students?
Step Up for Students.
For students.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. I just want to make sure they
Yes.
do the
Students.
right thing.
Step
But
Up
not
for
a number
Students.
for? I didn't know how
Not the
cutesy
number
it was.
for
Okay,
it.
the word
I
for.
think it's all spelled out.
Okay, stepupforstudents.org, the Gardner Scholarship. If you have ASD, a diagnosis, a IEP plan, you can apply for up to $10,000.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's
a good amount
wonderful-
of money.
Yeah, very cool. Again, any more specific questions like that, I mean, obviously, to call you guys and have that conversation is the
Absolutely.
best way to go, right? Very cool. So you've talked about some specific programs, obviously the core subjects that you're working on, all these extra things going on. And you mentioned this idea of a bigger movement of the obviously the interest is growing in it. The benefits are being observed, I'm guessing, and there's actually going to be a film.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the reasons that this is a movement, Christina touched on, a lot of the things that are happening in the school system, like standardized testing, but also this whole idea of meeting students where they're at. Our entire culture, we can get everything individualized, right? You can get the exact iPhone color that you want. You can get a toaster that looks the way you want. We're used to customizing everything, and that trend is continuing into education. And it sounds, I guess I'm dating myself to say, like, we're going into a new era. And the education for the world that we're educating my children for is going to be so vastly different than the one I was educated for, that there are a lot of leaders in the field and thought leaders who are talking about what needs to change about the way we're educating. And when we went to school, education was for facts and knowledge that I had to store up here. Yes. And now that's all in my back pocket on my phone at any given moment. So now what? Are we post-education? So now education has to change to skills like critical thinking and collaboration. And that's a reason I think that this is part of a larger movement. So down here we have, ourselves, we have Yellowwood. We are working together to try to get the word out to families. And one of the ways we're doing that is with, as you mentioned, a screening of a documentary. So there's a documentary called Class Dismissed. If any of your listeners or viewers are not local and can't come to our screening, they can, look it up and try to access the movie. It's a great way to learn about homeschooling. It follows some homeschooling families, their decisions, their journeys. And we're fortunate enough that the Gateway Theater here in Fort Lauderdale is hosting a screening. It's on February 20th.
Oh, that's awesome.
And you can go on their website. I believe their website is classicgateway.com, but it's Gateway Theater in Fort Lauderdale. You can purchase the tickets there February 20th. And we're actually pairing the screening with a live panel of everything from veteran homeschool moms who've sent kids from preschool to college in homeschool. Christina and I will be on the panel. The staff of Yellowwood will be on the panel, as well as even some college admissions counselors to talk about how that trend is growing and what they see. You mentioned, are the benefits being seen yet? There's some research out there that shows that homeschoolers are actually outperforming other students when it comes to things like SAT performance and college readiness. And so it's really an exciting time to be able to start sharing that information on a wider scale. I have families. We had someone we were speaking to recently about professionally collaborating who has a 9-month-old baby and was like, yeah, we're already talking about homeschooling. So people are starting to think that way more and more.
It doesn't surprise me so much to hear about the academic success, especially when you're getting that individualized attention. For me, just playing devil's advocate, and I'm sure if someone's less familiar with it, I would worry more about the socialization, right? So hearing about different communities like you're saying, or just even the fact, even if you don't live where there's a community like this, that there are resources at our fingertips in our digital age of, you might not know the people down the street who are also doing this. So, there sounds like there's a lot more opportunity than I really realized for connecting with other parents who've made this choice.
There are more resources than you can sign up for. When I made this decision 5 or 6 years ago, I remember sitting in my bed on the laptop and looking for classes and things, and very, very shortly realizing I can't sign up for all these things. It's too much. So there's lots of opportunities for social interaction, not just the occasional field trip where you may or may not know the other students, but also ongoing classes, places like Evolve where your kid can come every Monday and see the same students and take a class. Or like I mentioned, a co-op. Museums are very open to setting things up. There's lots of options.
That's awesome. So just to review, we've got Class Dismissed screening, which is a documentary about the benefits of homeschooling, coupled with a panel with you lovely ladies and some other experts in the area. That's going to be on February 20th.
Yes, ma'am.
Gateway Cinema. So we have just about 3 minutes left. There's something that was mentioned before we started talking today that I just wanted a chance to ask about. You had mentioned errorless teaching. What does that mean?
So errorless teaching is a way of teaching kids so that they don't get frustrated and make mistakes. So when you think about in a school, anywhere really, sometimes we'll ask a child what's 2 + 2, and then we wait, right? So that's more of a testing situation, not really a teaching situation. So errorless teaching helps reduce frustration by giving the answer ahead of time. So that applies not only for academics, but it applies for socially too. We talk all day for our kids. So the kids that really need help with, what do I do now in this social situation? We give them the words to say, or we tell them what we think they, like, not what we think they should do, but we wonder out loud. We do something that gives them a clue so they know what to do. But that's essentially what errorless teaching is.
Real quick. Yeah.
A quick example.
Yeah.
We say, I'm confused. So when a child is
lot.
doing a behavior that is not desired, instead of saying, no, don't do that, it's wrong, we say, oh, I'm confused. How come you're in the art room if it's math time? And it's errorless, but it prompts them.
Very cool. Just a lot to think about, different approaches, which I love, which is what this program is all about. Thank you, ladies, so much for coming on and sharing about this. I hope you'll come back and we'll do every year we'll do a recap of how things have grown. I'd love to follow the success of it. So again, thank you so much for taking the time. All right, we will see you next week. Stick around for our next show with Faith, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Thank you for listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. We hope you enjoyed today's program and discovered new ways to bring music, art, and dance into your home or workplace. Please find a copy of today's show at pbmti.com. If you have any questions for our guest or myself, please email me at Bree, that's Bree, @pbmti.com, or call the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute at 561-747-9944. Tune back in next week for an all-new live show. See you then.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Talk 1470 is WWNN Pompano Beach and 95.3 FM.